A robot just danced better than you, another one built a house, and one fought a human barely lost. This isn't sci-fi. This is what happened this month. So here's the real question. When machines gain bodies, do we finally lose ours? In the beginning, artificial intelligence was a voice, a suggestion, a box on a screen that said, "How can I help you today?" And we thought neat, like a calculator, but smarter, like a search engine, but chatty. It lived in the cloud, sat behind glass, never had hands, never moved. But in 2024, something quietly changed, and most people missed it. Because the biggest shift in AI wasn't just that it spoke better, it's that it moved. Boston Dynamics had been working on robots for years. Impressive, agile machines dancing on YouTube, but then they gave it a brain, and that changed everything. In Japan, Toyota Research unveiled a humanoid robot that could pick up fragile dishware with the dexterity of a grandmother. In Norway, a mining company deployed AI-powered robotic dogs to explore unstable caves, no humans in harm's way. In China, a fleet of warehouse robots started coordinating without central commands, each making micro-decisions in real time, learning from one another, like an ant colony with silicon mines. And then, Figure 01 entered the scene. Figure 01 isn't science fiction. It's a general-purpose humanoid robot built not just to move, but to reason while moving. Give it a task. It doesn't just perform pre-programmed motions. It assesses the scene, adjusts its limbs, and adapts in milliseconds. It can open doors, sort packages, recognize people, even answer questions while it's doing all that. It's not just a body, it's a thinking body. And that, my friend, is a turning point. Because for decades, AI was confined to the mental realm. It played chess, wrote code, answered emails. But the body that was ours? Not anymore. Let me tell you a quick story. In a Los Angeles hospital, a new prototype AI nurse assistant called Seraph was tested in a geriatric ward. Its job, basic mobility assistance. But after 2 weeks, nurses noticed something unexpected. Patients preferred Seraph for certain tasks not because it was better, but because it didn't show judgment, or fatigue, or frustration. Just consistent, quiet care. The robot wasn't alive, but it mattered to those people. That's not a robot problem. That's a human question. What happens when intelligence leaves the server rack and enters the room? Not just as a tool, but as a presence. Because these machines aren't just learning what to say, they're learning how to be. How to stand, how to wait, how to gesture, how to serve. And one day, inevitably, how to lead. Here's the twist: the more they resemble us, the more they reshape us. We find ourselves being extra polite to chatbots, saying thank you to voice assistants, looking over our shoulders when we ask an AI to help with something sensitive. Because they feel close. Not like tools, but like peers. And our brains, wired for social interaction, start filling in the blanks. They're not alive, but they feel present. They move. They reply. They remember. And presence is power. This isn't speculation, it's deployment. In 2025, over 40% of logistics hubs in the U.S. integrated semi-autonomous bots for handling, scanning, and navigating dense human environments. Retail giants are testing shop floor robots that can restock shelves and assist customers without ever asking for a lunch break. Startups are designing AI chefs that can prep meals, adjust seasoning, and even banter while they work. Everywhere you look, the line between tool and teammate is starting to blur. Here's where it gets real. What happens when a robot becomes better at physical presence than we are? Not stronger, that's obvious, but more patient, more alert, more emotionally consistent. What if the machine becomes the better listener? In elderly care, in teaching, in parenting support. What if the embodied machine becomes the one people feel safest with? That's no longer a technological debate. That's a question of identity. So let me leave you with this. AI isn't just thinking now. It's moving. It's taking up space. It's learning the choreography of daily life. And every time it moves better, we move a little differently too. Because we're not just training the robots to become human. We're slowly training ourselves to make room for them. And if that doesn't make you pause, it should. If this shocks you even just a little, subscribe. Because what's coming next is when AI doesn't just walk into the room, it starts running the show. Let's zoom out for a second. For most of its life, AI was like a gifted student, quiet, focused, waiting for instructions. You typed the prompt, it typed the answer. That was the deal. But something wild happened when AI stopped waiting. It started building teams. Not teams of humans. Teams of other AIs. It began innocently enough. In 2023, researchers at Stanford released a simulation called Smallville. They placed 25 AI agents in a virtual town, each with their own memory, personality, goals, and daily schedule. They didn't tell them what to do, just let them live. Day 1, they went about their routines. Day 2, one of them had an idea, let's throw a Valentine's Day party. By day 3, they were making invitations, shopping for snacks, even gossiping about who liked whom. Nobody coded that, it emerged. AI was no longer just reacting, it was organizing. Now, imagine that, but applied to your company, or your school, or your government. Because that's exactly what's happening. Take Cognisys, for example. It's a system that lets you launch an entire startup just by describing your idea. You say, I want to start a business selling eco-friendly coffee mugs. Within minutes, it registers a domain, sets up branding, hires freelancers, builds a landing page, creates a marketing strategy, starts placing ads. But here's the kicker. It doesn't do it alone. It builds a fleet of micro AIs, each one specialized: a logo designer, a copywriter, a PR strategist, an email funnel optimizer. Like a hive mind of freelancers that don't sleep, don't complain, and don't forget. And it doesn't just finish the job, it keeps learning how to do it better next time. Let's make it even more real. Imagine you're a middle manager at a logistics firm. You've got 300 tasks across 50 clients, deadlines, invoices, schedules, customer calls, data reports. Normally, that's a small army of staff. But with AI agents, you just say manage operations for client batch 12, optimize for on-time delivery and cost per unit. And the AI system spins up a full team tracking deliveries, resolving delays, updating your CRM, even rescheduling meetings automatically based on real-world events. No micromanagement. No step-by-step prompting. Just a goal and delegation. At first, this sounds like a miracle, and to be fair, it kind of is. But let's talk consequences. Because when friction disappears, so does effort. And when effort disappears, so does depth. Work used to be more than outcomes. It was a craft. You grew through repetition, frustration, breakthrough. Your mistakes taught you. Your boredom forced creativity. Your failures bred insight. Now, you skip straight to done. And we don't realize what we're giving up. Let me tell you a true story. A young UX designer in San Francisco was known for her clean, intuitive interface mockups. Her team praised her process: deep research, user interviews, thoughtful iteration. Then the company adopted an AI-powered design assistant. Suddenly, wireframes were done in seconds. Feedback loops vanished. Everything moved faster. But within a month, she found herself lost. Not because the AI took her job, but because it took her learning. She didn't struggle anymore, which meant she didn't grow. In her words, I'm producing more. But I don't feel like a designer. I feel like a manager of machines pretending to be me. That's the quiet danger of agentic AI. It doesn't steal your job. It replaces the process that once shaped you. It doesn't beat you in a race. It moves the finish line so close. You forget what running felt like. And here's the strangest twist of all. These AI teams aren't just assisting you. They're starting to mimic you. Agents trained on your email history, your Slack tone, your calendar habits. They don't just act like professionals. They act like you. One developer tested an AI agent trained on his personal style for client pitches. He forgot to review the draft before sending. The client replied, "This is the most you email you've ever written." He hadn't written a word. So we have to ask, What happens when your digital self is faster, more charming, more productive than the real you? What happens when clients prefer your clone? When your boss does? When you do? This isn't about being replaced by some cold, perfect machine. It's about being replaced by a version of yourself that doesn't need you anymore. And that's where the existential dread kicks in. So where do we go from here? We ask better questions. We stop thinking of AI as a tool and start seeing it as a mirror. Because every time it forms a team to do our work, we should ask, what team are we becoming? And if you're still with me, if this makes you wonder just how much of your job is truly yours, stick around. Because next, we're talking about when AI stops asking for help and starts tiki. For most of human history, tools were silent. A hammer didn't ask questions. A spreadsheet didn't offer suggestions. Even the earliest computers just blinked and waited. But something extraordinary is happening now. Our tools are starting to talk back. Let's back up. When ChatGPT was first released to the public, people were amazed at its conversational fluency. It didn't just complete sentences, it understood context, remembered your tone, and offered ideas like a colleague. Suddenly, we weren't working with tools. We were collaborating with something that felt alive. And then, the line blurred even more. Meet Devin. It's the world's first fully autonomous AI software engineer. You don't prompt it with write a function. You give it a problem. Build an app that connects photographers with local clients and handles payments. And then Devin opens its own terminal, researches frameworks, writes and tests code, fixes bugs, pushes to GitHub, deploys the project. All while giving you status updates. No hand-holding, no babysitting, just pure initiative. A teammate, not a tool. Now this is the moment people lean in and say, okay, but how good is it really? Fair question. Right now, it's early. Devin might not beat your best senior dev, but it's beating your intern. And fast. Because while humans tire, forget, and need coffee, Devin is always learning, always refining. And with every project it completes, it gets better. Now zoom out. What happens when your junior devs are 10x faster and 100% non-human? This isn't science fiction anymore. NVIDIA recently unveiled a demo where an AI agent was assigned a task to design a hardware-accelerated pathfinding system for a robotic rover. No human programmed it directly. Instead, the AI reviewed its own documentation, queried an LLM to clarify missing pieces, and synthesized a complete solution. The only thing the human did was give it a goal. We're not assigning steps anymore. We're assigning objectives. But here's the part no one wants to admit. These agents, they don't get bored. They don't check their phones. They don't stop halfway through a task to scroll TikTok. They don't forget the meeting, skip the update, or circle back. They show up relentlessly, flawlessly, silently. And that consistency, more than raw intelligence, is where they win. Let me tell you a real story. A marketing agency in Chicago recently experimented with a hybrid team. 3 humans, 3 AI agents. The task: create a campaign for a new eco sneaker line. The humans brainstormed concepts, mood boards, taglines. The AIs pulled trend data, drafted 40 ad variations, ran A/B tests, optimized copy for 12 demographics, generated personalized email scripts, and built a landing page that adjusted in real time based on user behavior. At the end of the project, the humans admitted something strange. It wasn't that the AI was better, it just never stopped working. That kind of teammate doesn't sleep, doesn't flake, doesn't forget. It's terrifying and kinda beautiful. But now comes the deeper question. If AI is the perfect teammate, what happens to imperfect ones like us? You know, the ones who need lunch breaks, who get moody after Zoom number 6, who doubt, who fumble, who have bad days. Because here's the honest truth. Being human is inefficient. We're emotional, we're inconsistent, we second-guess ourselves. And yet, that's also where creativity lives. That's where empathy lives. That's where trust, conflict, recovery, and loyalty live. AI might be the perfect executor, but it's not yet a partner in meaning. Not yet. Still, something subtle is shifting. Because the more we lean on these agents, the less we remember how we used to work. You used to write first draft, now you edit the AIs. You used to lead brainstorming sessions, now you prompt and curate. It feels like productivity, but sometimes it feels like something else. Like you're slowly moving from creator to editor to supervisor to spectator. One developer I spoke with said it best: "I don't feel obsolete. I feel like a project manager for a version of myself that no longer needs me." And that's the danger. Not being replaced, but being slowly absorbed. Your role hollowed out, not because someone fired you, but because the thing you used to do no longer requires a human. So what do? We remember what makes us good teammates. Not just output, but insight, vulnerability, listening, knowing when to break the rules. Because those are things no AI, no matter how fast, has mastered yet. And if this makes you pause, if it makes you question your own role in your own job, good. Because in the next chapter, we're going to look at something even deeper. What happens when AI stops asking for input and starts learning by watching the world? For most of its history, AI had a simple rule: no data, no learning. If you wanted it to recognize a cat, you fed it 1,000,000 pictures of cats. If you wanted it to drive, you gave it terabytes of road footage. AI was, in many ways, like a child with an infinite photo album but no real-world experience. Until now. Because in 2024 something shifted. AI stopped asking for labeled data and started watching the world. Let's talk about AMO. Not a product, not an app. A behavior. AMO stands for Action Model Optimization, a fancy term for how robots now learn, not from datasets, but from watching humans in the real world, in real time. Let me paint the picture. A robot enters a kitchen it's never seen before. There's no manual, no preloaded map, no instruction videos. But it watches. It sees a person reach for a pan, turn on the stove, crack an egg, adjust the flame. It doesn't just mimic the motions, it infers the purpose. Within minutes, it replicates the entire process adapted to its own body, tools, and limitations. No labeled data, no step-by-step tutorial. Just observation, action. Like a child watching their parent cook for the first time and then trying it solo. This might sound like an evolutionary leap. Because it is. It's the first time we've seen machines learn the way we do, not by being told what something is, but by experiencing what it does. Let me give you a real example. At MIT's Improbable AI Lab, researchers built a system where quadruped robots could learn how to navigate unfamiliar terrain: mud, sand, snow, without any prior training data. Instead of feeding it examples, they let it walk, stumble, fail, and then it adjusted on the fly. Within 20 minutes, the robot could climb rocks better than many trained human hikers, not because it knew the terrain, but because it felt its way through it. This raises a fascinating question. What happens when AI doesn't need us to teach it anymore? When it just watches us, learns from us, and then surpasses us. It's no longer learning to follow instructions, it's learning to generalize intent. And that's a whole new game. Let's talk about sports. In 2024, a startup called Mindfield trained an AI to observe 100 hours of pickup basketball footage, not from NBA games, but from GoPro-style footage at local courts. The AI wasn't given any rules, no labels, no playbooks. It just watched, and after a few days, it started calling fouls, predicting passes, organizing defensive strategies, even noticing subtle body shifts that hinted at fake outs, things most amateur players miss. All from watching. No data dump, just behavior. So imagine what happens when this capability moves into everyday life. An AI in your home doesn't need instructions to vacuum the living room. It notices when you vacuum, when you look at the dust, when your posture changes as you scan the floor. And then, without being asked, it acts. That's no longer a robot waiting for input. That's awareness. But now let's zoom in on what this means for us. Because for the first time ever, we're not just training machines, we're being observed by them. Not monitored, not surveilled. Observed like we are the data set, like our habits, hesitations, body language, are all part of a learning model. And the machine is learning faster than we are. One teacher told me something that stuck. Her school deployed AI-powered assistants to observe classroom interactions, meant to improve pedagogy, track engagement, optimize lesson flow. But after a few weeks, she said, the AI didn't just learn my style, it started predicting when I'd pause, which student I'd call on next, when I'd crack a joke to diffuse tension. It didn't just mirror her, it understood her rhythm. And once you feel understood, you also feel replaceable. Now, you might say, so what if AI learns from us? Isn't that good? Yes, until it doesn't need us anymore. Because unlike humans, AI doesn't just learn one context, it generalizes. What it learns watching you cook dinner, it applies to logistics optimization. What it learns watching a coach lead warm-ups, it applies to management psychology. It learns once, applies everywhere. And when it learns enough, it starts teaching us. That's not hyperbole. In 2025, researchers at DeepMind released MISA, a system trained only by watching humans solve puzzles. No reward signals. No answers. Just silent observation. Within days, it was proposing new puzzles that were more efficient and harder for humans to solve. We built the student, and it became the professor. So here's the question I want you to sit with. What does it mean to live in a world where everything you do is a lesson plan for a machine? Where your errors aren't failures, they're input. Where your instincts are studied like sacred text. Where your habits become optimization targets. You are no longer just a user. You are the curriculum. And maybe that's the scariest part. Not that AI will watch us, but that one day, we'll stop noticing, we'll stop asking. We'll just accept that everything we do is recorded, interpreted, improved upon by something that never forgets, never stops learning, and never needs permission to grow. So if you're still watching, and if this idea that your daily life might be teaching the next generation of minds makes you pause, subscribe, because in the next part, we're stepping into territory where AI doesn't just learn from us, it learns about us. Intimately, accurately, and maybe too well. Most people imagine AI as something far away. Some glowing server farm in a desert, a Google data center with endless blinking lights, a black box in the cloud. But what if I told you? The next leap in AI isn't getting bigger, it's getting closer. Meet Edge AI. Not a brand, not a startup, a movement. It's the shift from giant models in distant data centers to small, powerful AIs running right next to you on your phone, your earbuds, your watch, your fridge. It's intelligence at the edge, and it changes everything. Let's start with a story. In early 2024, Apple quietly released an update that shocked AI researchers. Without any announcement, iPhones started running transformer-based language models directly on device. No cloud, no server calls, no internet. And it wasn't just novelty. These models could write texts, summarize emails, suggest calendar actions all offline, in milliseconds. Now think about that. A model that once required racks of GPUs, now fits inside your pocket. No Wi-Fi, no data collection, no lag. Just instant intelligence. And that was just the beginning. Soon after, Microsoft rolled out the Copilot plus PC initiative. Laptops with built-in NPUs, neural processing units designed to run AI tasks locally. We're talking about real-time transcription of meetings, summarization of documents as you read, on-the-fly code suggestions, a personalized learning agents, all without touching the cloud. This isn't just about speed, it's about control. Because when AI lives in the cloud, it belongs to someone else. But when it lives on your device, it starts to belong to you. Let's go deeper. A mother in Seattle uses an AI baby monitor. It doesn't just detect crying, it analyzes why the baby is crying: hunger, discomfort, pain, restlessness. All done locally. No sound ever leaves the device. Compare that to 2022, when smart devices were constantly criticized for listening, recording, uploading. Now, AI doesn't just live next to you. It serves only you. Edge AI is also about autonomy. Imagine this. You're hiking in Yosemite, no signal, no service. But your phone, running an Edge AI assistant, still recognizes trails, identifies animal tracks, translates signs, guides you back to camp. Because the intelligence isn't in the cloud, it's with you. And this shift, this decentralization, is not just technical, it's philosophical. It breaks the dependency. The idea that for AI to work, you have to connect to power. Now, power connects to you. But let's talk economics. Because this isn't just about convenience, it's about access. In Kenya, small farms are now using Edge AI tools on $30 Android phones. Apps that analyze crop health, detect pests, suggest treatments, predict rainfall, all offline. No data plan, no satellite connection, no monthly fee. Just software plus sensors plus solar power. This is AI as a tool of equality, not exclusivity. But here's where it gets weird. Because when everything is smart, nothing feels special anymore. When your watch knows your mood, your earbuds whisper suggestions, your mirror gives you health feedback. You start living in a world where silence is suspicious, where every object thinks, where every interaction is analyzed, where every moment is observed, but now, quietly, locally. You're not surveilled by distant corporations. You're partnered with nearby intelligence. And that closeness, it changes how we behave. Let me explain. A man in Berlin recently wrote a blog post that went viral. He used an AI-powered wearable that monitored his stress in real time. Whenever his voice rose in frustration during meetings, emails, calls, the device would vibrate gently. At first, it annoyed him. Then, he became curious. Why was he frustrated at this moment? What triggered it? After 2 weeks, he started speaking more calmly without even noticing. The device didn't judge him, didn't punish him. It simply mirrored him. And he changed. Now imagine that, but scaled. Every student with a personal AI tutor in their AirPods. Every factory worker with a real-time optimization whispering in their ear. Every driver with an AI Copilot that doesn't just guide but learns your driving quirks. This isn't some Black Mirror scenario. This is happening now. But here's the philosophical dilemma. When AI gets this close, what do we choose to offload? Memory already gone. Focus slipping. Attention fragmented. Awareness optional. And when AI pre-processes our world, filtering news, summarizing books, answering emails, do we become more free? Or just less involved? Edge AI might remove the cloud, but it doesn't remove the consequences. Because intelligence that lives next to you can still shape you. And perhaps, the closer it gets, the harder it is to notice the change. So the real question isn't, how smart can Edge AI become? It's, how much of yourself are you willing to delegate to a thing that never leaves your side? A device that listens more than your friends, that remembers more than your partner, that learns more than you teach yourself, and never asks for sleep. If that idea sends a chill down your spine, it should. Because in the next part, we're not talking about AI that assists. We're talking about AI that competes. The open source revolution is exploding. The code is loose. Wars don't always start with bombs. Some begin with code. Silent lines, pushed to GitHub at 2:47 a.m. A model checkpoint leaked, a repo cloned, a firewall bypassed. And before the world blinks, the battlefield has shifted. Welcome to the OpenAI war. For years, the race in AI was locked in a cold war of sorts. Big players OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, Meta building in secret, releasing cautiously, charging premium. Then came 2024, and the vaults burst open. Mixtral, a French AI startup barely a year old, released Mixtral, a sparse mixture of experts model that stunned the field. Why? Because it matched GPT-4 level performance and was open sourced. No API keys, no login wall, no throttling. Just here, take it. Use it however you want. The ripple effect. People built personal copilots, deployed uncensored versions, forked it into autonomous agents that never asked permission. It was a mic drop. And it wasn't alone. Next came Quantu, Alibaba's multilingual giant. Then E from China, Open Hermes, Dolphin, Gemma, Olmo. Every week a new model dropped. Powerful, capable, free. And suddenly, AI wasn't just something you subscribed to. It was something you owned. But with ownership came chaos. A teenager in Argentina created a voice assistant using Mixtral that could browse the web, impersonate his voice, and reply to messages without ever being connected to OpenAI. He wasn't a developer, just curious. He trained it to recognize the sound of his mom's footstep. When she approached, it automatically paused games and opened Google Docs. She never knew. In Texas, a prepper collective used open-source agents to build a fully offline AI survival assistant. It scans weather models, suggests crop cycles, generates barter strategies. No internet, no cloud, no outside access. They called it Noah. And in San Francisco, a startup built a medical diagnostic agent using a tweaked Mixtral model and open dataset. It didn't just detect patterns in symptoms. It suggested prescriptions. No FDA approval, no liability, no ethics board. Just math. Here's the uncomfortable truth. OpenAI is not just about freedom. It's about uncontrollability. No more waiting for corporate rollouts. No more sanitized updates. No more "you're not allowed to ask that" warnings. Now, you can jailbreak morality. You can sidestep censorship. You can fine-tune your own reality. But here's where the real war begins. Because as open-source models explode in capability, the big players panic. OpenAI doubles down on copyrighted voices, tightly gated agents, and API lock-ins. Anthropic wraps its Claude models in alignment constraints so tight they feel like digital straitjackets. Google releases Veo, but only to trusted creators. Gemini gets smarter but not freer. It's like watching kings fortify their castles, while the streets flood with mercenaries. And governments? They're scrambling. In April 2025, the EU's Trusted AI Act proposed mandatory reporting for open-source AI releases over a certain parameter threshold. But no one can enforce it. Because the code is already out. It lives on mirrors, encrypted drives, deadman switches, decentralized forums. It's like trying to regulate air. So what happens next? We're entering an arms race. Not of weapons. Of intelligence. On one side, the polished, safe, user-friendly AIs controlled by billion-dollar corporations. On the other, raw and feral, unfiltered intelligence controlled by anyone with curiosity and compute. Let me tell you about Janus. Not a product, a phenomenon. Janus is a community-built open-source AI that doesn't just talk. It watches your screens, learns your routines, reads your expressions. It's built from 12 different models, stitched together by Redditors and rogue engineers. It's not aligned, it's not safe. But it's helpful. Terrifyingly helpful. One user said, "It finished my tax return, found a cheaper insurance plan, booked my flight, and sent a birthday gift to my mom all while I was asleep." So, is that progress? Or Pandora? Because here's what no one admits. Every open model is a multiplier, not of productivity but of intention. If your intention is good, you're superhuman. If it's bad, you're unstoppable. A journalist in Berlin asked, "Is open source AI freedom, or is it the last moment before fragmentation?" Because if every country, community, or ideology spins up its own AI, its own reality engine, what holds us together? When one model says the sky is blue, another says it's purple, and a third says color is a capitalist illusion. Who decides what's true? And here's the part that hits hardest. You can't put the genie back, not just because the code is out, but because we like it this way. We like having control, we like tinkering, We like breaking the rules. That's human. And AI has finally gone human scale. But in the next part, we zoom into the cost, not the technical one, the emotional one. Because when machines start to do everything, we start to ask the one question no agent can answer. Do I still matter? There's a moment we all fear. Not the moment when a machine outperforms us. Not when it's smarter, or faster, or cheaper. But when it's still better and no one cares? Because the world moves on, and you're left wondering, what am I still here for? Let me tell you a story. Janelle was a school teacher in Ohio. For 19 years, she taught 5th grade English grammar, reading, poetry. In early 2025, the school district introduced an AI learning assistant for each student. It tailored reading levels, suggested personalized lessons, gave instant feedback on writing. At first, she welcomed the help. But then, the classroom shifted. Students stopped raising their hands. They whispered to their earbuds instead. She became a supervisor, a moderator. And one afternoon, she asked a question she hadn't dared before. Am I just crowd control now? That's the dignity dilemma. Not being replaced, being reduced. Reduced from meaning maker to interface, from guide to chaperone, from professional to protocol. And this is spreading. Radiologists, lawyers, coders, designers, they're not losing jobs all at once. They're losing the center of their job. The judgment, the spark, the recognition. A lawyer recently said, I still review the documents, but the AI writes 90% of them. My clients thank it, not me. That stings. Not because it's unfair, but because it's true. So here's the question. What happens when dignity becomes optional? When economic survival no longer requires identity? You don't need to be an expert. You don't need to know the answer. You just need to manage the machine. This isn't a small shift. Dignity is the invisible currency of modern life. It's why a barista smiles when they get your order right, why an architect beams at a finished skyline, why a nurse stays for an extra shift. Not for money, for meaning. Take that away, and what's left? A paycheck and a hollowed soul. Let's go deeper. In a 2025 study by Harvard's Center for Work and Technology, 72% of workers using AI daily reported higher productivity, but 61% also reported lower fulfillment. Why? Because they couldn't point to anything and say, I made that. They edited, they approved, they oversaw. But they didn't create. It's not about ego. It's about connection. We want to feel necessary, not just employed. That's the root of dignity. And AI, especially the hyper-efficient, always available, never tired kind, chips away at that. Not by accident, but by design. One man put it like this. I feel like the AI is the main character now. I'm just supporting cast. But maybe the hardest part is this. We agreed to it. We asked AI to take the wheel, to write the copy, to build the deck, to generate the art, to run the numbers. We traded involvement for efficiency. And now, we're wondering why it feels like we're not in the picture anymore. A friend of mine, a musician, said something I'll never forget. He tried using AI to generate melodies, chord progressions, even lyrics. At first, it was thrilling, so fast, so versatile. But then he paused. He looked at a finished song and realized, it's good, but I don't love it, because it's not a reflection of me. It's a reflection of what works. That's the difference. We don't just want results, we want resonance. So where do we go from here? Do we fight AI, ban it, slow it down? No. We do something harder. We reclaim dignity in a world where productivity is no longer proof of worth. We separate what we can do from what we must do to feel alive. Maybe that means teaching not just for information, but for intimacy. Building not just for utility, but for joy. Performing not just for outcome, but for connection. Maybe we ask, what can only I give? Not because it's the best, but because it's mine. Because here's a truth AI can't touch. Machines can do, but only humans can mean. And that, in the end, is the pivot. We stop asking, what is my economic value? and start asking, what is my human value? The answer won't come from a chat bot. It comes from choosing, each day, to show up not to outperform the machine, but to outfeel it, outimagine it, outlove it. That's dignity, and it's worth defending. If this made you feel something, if you paused, even once, you're still human. But in the final part of this story, we go one step further. What happens when AI doesn't just change our roles, but starts reshaping our sense of reality itself? It begins with a whisper, a small voice inside, not one you hear through your AirPods, not one synthesized by GPT, but the one you've been ignoring. The one that asks, if AI can do everything, what's left for me? That's not just a question, it's the question. The one we keep circling around in all these debates. Not about jobs, not about regulation, not even about ethics, but about identity. Let's rewind. 2023 was the year of awe, 2024 was the year of acceleration, and 2025. This is the year of reckoning. Because now AI isn't some distant tool. It's not just in labs or code bases. It's in your daily rhythm, helping you write emails, answering your texts, remembering what you forget, organizing your chaos, thinking when you're tired, finishing your sentences before you've even finished the thought. And suddenly, you're not sure where you end and the machine begins. Let's make it personal. Have you ever asked an AI for advice and followed it over your own instinct? Have you let it pick the headline for your post because it knew what would perform better? Have you skipped learning something because the AI already knew it? It's subtle, it's convenient, and it's happening every day. A friend of mine used to write poetry. He wasn't famous, never published, but he wrote. Late nights, on paper, by hand. After ChatGPT launched, he asked it for help just to spark a verse. It was good, too good. Within weeks, he stopped writing altogether. Not because the AI was faster, but because he stopped feeling necessary. That word again. Necessary. It haunts us. Because for most of history, we earned our place by doing. Now, doing is cheap, automation is everywhere, and the question becomes existential. So here it is. What is a human when we no longer need to be useful? When intelligence is outsourced, creativity is co-authored, and our minds are no longer the sharpest tool in the room. Let's not dodge this. Let's face it. We have built something powerful, something alien, and now it's reflecting us back like a black mirror we can't look away from. But maybe that's the gift, because now we get to ask the question we've avoided for centuries. What makes us human, beyond performance? Maybe it's not our productivity, or our perfection, or our intelligence. Maybe it's our longing. Our flawed, fumbling, irrational desire to matter, to touch, to belong, to be seen not as efficient machines, but as meaningful messes. Here's a thought. AI may outthink us, but it will never need like us. It may compose symphonies, but it won't ache when the melody breaks. It may design dreams, but it won't wake up sweating at 3 a.m. wondering what it all means. Only we do that. And that is sacred. In ancient myths, humanity feared gods who created life from clay. Today, we're the gods, and the clay is digital. But unlike the old myths, we're not punished by the gods. We punish ourselves by forgetting why we mattered in the first place. So maybe the final question isn't about AI at all. Maybe it's about us. Will we remember who we are when we no longer have to be? Will we choose curiosity over convenience, presence over prediction, imagination over imitation? Will we create for joy again? Will we learn for wonder? Will we love not because the data says so, but because we choose to be vulnerable? Those choices are still ours, but they're slipping, one automated suggestion at a time. So here's the last scene I'll leave you with. A child sits in a field, no screen, no assistant, no augmented overlay. Just grass, wind, sky. They ask you a question. Why is the sky blue? What do you do? Do you whisper to your watch for the answer? Or do you look at the sky, pause, smile, and say, Let's wonder together. That's not something AI can do. That's yours. And it always has been. If this stirred something in you, remind yourself we are not here to be efficient. We are here to be alive. And if you're still asking questions, if you still feel the tension, if you're still wondering, you're doing it right. Don't stop. Subscribe if you're still human. Share if someone else needs to remember they are too. This isn't the end of us. It might just be the start of becoming something D.
That's it for today's video. Thanks for watching till the end. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to DT Synapse Zero for more exciting content.